Radio check, radio check, radio check. This is the Explorers pod over.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Excellent.
Hi, Emma.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Hi.
Hello, hello. All right, so welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Very appreciative you could make it. How are you?
I'm good. A little bit tired in my legs. I'm training for my next expedition and it's a lot of work right now.
Wow.
That's good to hear. All right. What's the next expedition? Getting a little ahead of ourselves, but since you brought it up, give us a little of the details.
Well, I hope it will be possible, but the plan is to go to Pakistan this summer and try to climb my first 8,000 meter mountain.
Wow. Congratulations.
That is
You can
really
say that
awesome.
afterwards.
What mountain are you attempting here?
Broad Peak.
Okay. Wow. Far out. Good on you.
Nice. Well, Emma, thank you very much for your time. Welcome to our show, and we are very excited to meet you and hear your stories. And to start, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a little bit of a background for our audience to know.
Yeah, so I grew up in the forest in Sweden in a super tiny place. It lived like 30 people there. And I was not that into adventures or mountains at this time because there weren't any where I grew up. It was flat. But I did found a video camera in my parents' closet and I decided that I wanted to become a director and photographer. So that was the path my life was taking from when I was a kid. And I started photographing concerts and I became a photographer pretty early in my life, and that was what I was working with. And by the years, I started making photography tours and they became more and more adventurous. And then one day I was on a plane to New Zealand to do research for a photography tour I was having there. And I watched this movie, Everest. I don't know if you've seen it, but it doesn't end that well. But it didn't matter because the feeling I had in my body when I saw this movie was like, oh my God, I have to start climbing mountains.
All right.
Which is basically not the reaction most people are having.
Sure.
And I didn't know how you did that. I didn't even knew that someone like me could climb mountains because all the stories I heard about people climbing mountains, it was super hardcore men and not some, regular
Scary
girls
stuff.
from Sweden.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was maybe 4 years ago now, and it turned out that I was climbing my first mountain a couple of months after this experience. I just had to get married and divorced before that could happen.
There
Okay.
are more mountains in between mountains.
Exactly. It was exactly like that.
So let's talk about a 49 Peaks in a Year project. Wow. Can you give us a background about this?
How did you conceptualize such an idea? Was this immediately after your epiphany that you were going to become a mountain climber, that you just said, I'm going to... How did that come
It was
about?
a little bit later. I had climbed 2 mountains before this happened. Mount Whitney in California, via Mountaineers route. It was my first big mountain and I just loved it.
Great mountain.
And then I climbed Mont Toubkal in Morocco 6 months later.
Far out.
So in the summer of 2017, I went on an expedition to Elbrus, the highest mountain in Europe in Russia.
Yeah.
And when I came home, I was restless and I felt I need a project. Okay, so I climbed the highest mountain in Europe. What if I climb the highest mountain in every country in Europe? And I thought, is that even possible for someone like me? Like, how difficult is it? So I started to do research on all the mountains, like what mountains is there? I mean, what's the highest mountain in Kosovo, for example, or what's the highest mountain in Austria? I didn't even know, so I just did 2 hours of research to see what's the highest mountain, how difficult is it, can I climb it? And I just decided I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try.
Okay.
And the next day I booked a ticket to go to Sweden's highest mountain, Kebnekaise, to climb that. And the weekend after that, I climbed Mont Blanc in France and Italy. So yeah, it was a spontaneous idea, and I just immediately, after getting the idea, started a project. So that was maybe a little bit crazy, but that's the way I like it, you know.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible endeavor, and quite an amazing twist to your story from fashion photographer, I'd say. When you made that shift and you started to go out on these expeditions, did you really focus as well on making photography part of that trip?
Well, I love to document my trips and to share with others. That's like one of the best things I know in life, is to inspire others and to help others to also do things that they love to do, to follow their passions. So I just documented everything for that purpose. So it wasn't, and it isn't my job to photograph in the mountains. That part of photography is only for passion and for pleasure for myself. And I like to have a little bit of photography for just that purpose, you know. That it doesn't have to be a client you have to deliver something to. You don't have the pressure to do something unless you want to, because I still work as a photographer. That's how I support myself, you know. And I do still fashion photography and portraits and lifestyle and everything. So photographing in the mountains, that's pure pleasure.
Right. So when you were a fashion photographer, that started out as you got involved with shooting rock concerts, a rock photo or something like that. How many years did you put into that career before you made the big shift to climbing and adventure sports?
So, I mean, I started doing photography when I was 19, like serious. That's when I found the rock photo. And then I photographed 3,500 concerts in less than 10 years.
You were a party animal. There's a lot more to you.
Yeah. And then I just felt, okay, if I have to photograph one more singer-songwriter just sitting on a chair playing guitar, I don't want to do this anymore. So that's when I turned into fashion photography around 2011, I think. And climbing mountains, I only been doing that for 3 or 4 years. So it's been very recent.
Okay.
It's a new chapter in my life.
Yeah, congratulations. Great place to be. It's a place where you can find everything. You find your... Yeah.
I'm a little bit sad I didn't discover it earlier, actually. It would be great to, you know, just grow up in the Alps or something, but that wasn't the reality for me.
Yeah, it's funny how some people just find it or fall into it. We interviewed a girl, Heather Anish Anderson, a few weeks back, and she's through trekked the Appalachian Trail, the Cascade, Great Pacific Trail, all these, and she's like a world record holder. But she was not into sports. She didn't even know about trekking or climbing until she was, you know, in her early 20s, and just did a trek one day. I'm like, wow, I fell in love with it. And then same is your story, just went for it. So pretty cool stuff.
Amazing. Well, I think people should do that more often. If they find something they're passionate about, they should just go for it.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about your shift from fashion photography to mountaineering, I'm very curious in how did you adjust, because I think the culture and the crowd are totally different.
I would say a little bit.
Fashion photography, you know, with all the glamour and elegance, and you know, you have to be flawless. And then you go to mountaineers, like rough camping's like always dirty, and I don't know. How did you adjust?
Well, it wasn't hard because, I mean, even if I work in the fashion industry, I never felt like I was part of it. That wasn't my home, you know. And I'm much more comfortable sleeping in a tent on an expedition for 2 weeks, not having a shower. So it was kind of natural, actually. And what I felt was that the outdoor world was so welcoming. And that's the opposite of the fashion
great community.
Actually. Yeah, it's a great community. And everyone is so nice and they want to help you out. And I just loved it. So that felt like home immediately. And I'm just so thankful for discovering this world, you know.
Cool, welcome. So,
thank you.
Jumping back to your your 49 climbs. You did more than that in 1 year, didn't it? Turn out to be
Yeah,
61.
exactly.
61.
So I took the same list as almost everyone else who have done this project. I mean, there's a book by some British adventurers that have done this before. So I just copied that list. And then I was thinking, okay, people, they are going to say like, oh, you did the highest mountain in Denmark, but what about the Faroe Islands? So I just added a couple of more. And then it turned out to be 61 in the end. And at the same time, when I was doing this project, I needed a goal, you know, because a project like this can take forever. It's a huge project. I mean, the logistics only are a big puzzle to solve, you know. So I decided I'm going to do it in less than 1 year. And what I didn't know at the time when I decided this for myself was that the world record was maybe 2.5 years or something.
Yeah.
So it was quite ambitious.
I
And
bet.
during this year where I climbed these peaks, I also went to Peru to climb 4,000 or 5,000 meter mountains. And I went on an expedition to Aconcagua to try to climb the highest mountain in South America. So it was a quite busy year.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, that sort of leads into my next question was, during this project, what was the hardest part? Was it, you know, logistics, the climb? What were the major pitfalls and setbacks along the way?
So I think it was the logistics. I mean, when I started planning for this project, I obviously had almost no experience, but I made a list, like in this order, I'm going to climb the mountains. And then I went to the first mountain, and after that, it became a snowstorm in the Alps. So everything just turned upside down right from the start. And that's when I learned the hard way, like you can't really plan the way you want in the mountains because you have to adjust to
the current events, the weather, the whole situation is always changing, right? You can't climb the mountain if the weather's not right, so on and so forth.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, I did climb a few mountains in really bad weather, in storms, in rain. I got lost on Scafell Pike in England, you know. I've done so many mistakes, and I've done so many. I mean, I learned so much during this project, and that's also why I love doing projects, because if you decide I want to go and climb this mountain, you are totally passionate about it. I wasn't that into going climbing like the mountains in Eastern Europe, and some mountains in the 49 Peaks project, they were parking lots, you know. It's like, oh, you park your car, you're there. There was no climbing at all in some cases, you know. Or maybe there was like a 200-meter path to walk from the parking lot to the highest point in Lasiva or something. But the thing is that when you have a project, you're forced to go to these places anyway, you know. And I had this really emotional and strong experience in Bosnia. That's a country I would probably never visit if it wasn't for this project. But oh my God, it was so beautiful. But it was also so sad because you were driving through these small villages and there was still bullet holes in the houses, like thousands of them everywhere from the war, you know.
Wow.
And you pass these big fields with big monuments from the war, and in the forests there are signs with skulls on, like, don't go here, there's mines in the forest still, you know. And to see all of this with your own eyes, things you know watched on TV when you were a kid or learned about in school, it was so humbling. I mean, you get so humble, and I think the emotional journey you do on a project like this is so rewarding, you know.
Sure.
But logistics were the hardest part, I would say. And
just
to
imagine.
time everything right.
I did read that you did have a sort of a program going where you invited people to join you on the climbs, and that sort of ended. And I think it was a logistics problem because you just couldn't match up people's climb dates with, you know, your schedule was always changing. That sort of
that was the thing. Like, you always had to be flexible. Like, okay, it's perfect weather on Monte Rosa in Switzerland, I have to do that one right now. Or like climbing the highest mountain in Iceland, it's only possible in April and May, and then the crevasses get too big, so you can't climb it afterwards. You have to, in this narrow window, get it done. And the weather on Iceland is crazy. So you have to be standby to go just when you see a weather window. So yeah, it was impossible.
Well, we all know summits start as attempts, and that always leaves some of the summits unclimbed. In the end of that year, how many summits did you succeed, and how many were unclimbed?
So let's see. Yeah, the first one I didn't succeed on, that I had to come back to. That was Kebnekaise, actually, the highest mountain in Sweden.
Really?
But I think there was some kind of, yeah, because I got fever. So when I woke up in base camp
I read that.
on the
That's
summit
right.
day, I had high fever, and I decided to try anyway. But after 2 hours, I was just like, this is stupid. And also, I have a trip to Mont Blanc next week. I have to go home and get healthy, you know, and be ready for that. So that one I had to do again, but that was perfect because then I could end in my home country, you know. And then there was a mountain, maybe it was Albania. We were like 1 hour from the summit, and then it was a big storm with lightning and hail, and it just became totally crazy. And we hid out under a rock for 2 hours, maybe waiting for it to pass, but it didn't. So we had to go down, and then we had to come back up the next day. For Montenegro it was, yeah, Montenegro.
Okay.
But other from that, I think all the other ones were climbed in the first attempt.
Okay.
Maybe I don't recall everything, but I think so, yeah.
Far out.
But
Congratulations.
the extra mountains, thank you. The extra mountains, like Aconcagua, I turned around a few hours before the summit. I was at 6,400 meters, but it was so cold that day, -40, wind chill, and my hands and feet were frozen, and I didn't want to risk frostbite, so I turned around, and
Good
that
call.
was the good decision. Yeah, I climbed it a few years later.
You got your fingers.
You have to give
Fingers
your
are fine.
Yeah, good
and
job.
toes complete.
Those two, yes.
Yeah.
But I do have really cold hands and feet, and that's a big problem in this sport, you know. So I'm right now researching like boot heating systems for this 8,000 meter peak, because I want to come home with all my toes.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Bring those digits home.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of the 8,000 meter that's coming up, well, during my Everest attempt, me and my teammates, we spent 3 years in training for that. And so tell us more about what's coming up for you. How long is your training, and do you have any upcoming goals aside from that?
Yeah, and did you do any sort of like mountaineering schools, or did you do any specific training as well?
Yeah, so I did like this basic mountaineering course before my 49 Peaks project. But after this project, it was hard to go back to my regular life. So I just took my van that I invested in. Oh, that's the best thing I ever bought. You know?
All right, good
It's
job.
a bank's van for another 7 years, but then it's going to be mine. So yeah, I just took my van, I drove to the Alps, and then I hired a mountain guide and said to him, teach me how to be independent in the mountains, because I climbed with guides a lot the first year, you know, when I had more difficult mountains, because I started getting tired of taking the easy way to the summit. Just walking on a path wasn't that challenging, and I wanted to develop. So I started climbing ridges, and I learned to ski, just to ski a couple of mountains and everything. And it was great to go with guides, but then they did all the work for you, you know, and I wanted to learn this, so I could do it myself. So that was an amazing day in the Alps. And then I just started training with climbing partners, and I led mountain climbs like the Matterhorn by myself. And that was really a rewarding experience, and I learned a lot. So ever since then, I've been climbing by myself or with partners. And I only use guides if I want to do something really technical and push my limits a little bit more. So yeah, I've been working on
good job.
knowledge and experience and getting better and learning more things in the mountains ever since. And I've been pretty active climbing. I mean, after the 49 Peaks project, I decided to take on the next continent. And I decided to climb the highest mountain in every country in the Americas, like both North, South, and Central America. And I started doing this project and I climbed almost 40% of the mountains, but then I decided to not do it anymore, to not continue with this project, because I felt on one hand that this is not what I want to do, because many mountains were out in the jungle. I spent 3 weeks in Brazil with the Yanomami tribe to climb the highest mountain in Brazil that is out in the middle of nowhere in the Amazon.
Wow.
And even if that was like a super cool experience, I wanted to do alpine climbs.
Yeah.
So I just felt that I wasted my time climbing in the jungle. And I
It's
mean, I
different.
went on some really crazy adventures in Central America, like climbing the highest mountain in Haiti. That was crazy, but it was not what I wanted to do. And then also there was this environmental reason. Like, I live in Europe, and it's not, I didn't feel okay having this big project on the other side of the world that demanded me flying over the Atlantic Ocean so many times.
Yep.
It's not good for the environment. So I decided I'm going to shut this project down, and I'm going to focus on something more local instead. So I've been climbing a lot in the Alps. And I mean, the last year I was supposed to climb all the 4,000 meter peaks in the Alps, but due to Corona, that didn't happen. So we postponed that until next year. So that's next year's big project. So, I mean, training hasn't been what I was hoping for the last year because of the situation in the world. But I did go to Sweden's highest mountains this summer, and I climbed all the 2,000 meter peaks in Sweden. That's the highest mountains we have.
Yeah, I saw a video today. You were with a girlfriend of yours, and you were both climbing. You were doing a traverse across the pretty spectacular route. It just snowed. It was late October. It was a day in the life with you. But it was just you two girls putting in your pro, laying the lines, doing the whole project. I thought it was really cool. So good on you. I'm glad to hear that you're actually laying your pro and doing all your stuff, because that's real stuff. That's really climbing, and good to hear that.
Exactly. I want to be a real climber. That's my goal, you know. I don't want to be a tourist in the mountains.
Yeah.
So for my Broad Peak expedition, I'm going to have base camp support, but I'm going to be independent on the mountain. So I'm making all my decisions by myself, and I have to carry all my gear. I won't have a porter or a Sherpa or anything carrying it for me. Because I want to become a real climber. And I mean, it takes time, you know, to get the experience. And this is still for me like a trip where I'm mostly looking for experience to see how will my body react on a high mountain like this, and how will I be able to handle the situations with the experiences I have. So yeah, we will see how it goes. But for me, it's not all about getting to the summits. It's about getting the experience.
Okay, good on you. So I really, it's talking about experience. I really enjoyed your blog about Ama de Blam. Beautiful mountain, beautiful mountain, extraordinary climb. Can you give us a little detail about that expedition?
Yeah, so that was a dream climb of mine.
Oh, and, mine too. Haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Oh, you have to. Oh. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I signed up for it right after my 49 Peaks project. So I have only been climbing for like a year, and I was originally supposed to go there and climb 6,000 meter mountains like Rouge and Island Peak and Mera Peak, you know, easier one. But then I was like, no, I'm just gonna go for Ama de Blam. And
way to go.
Dream mountain, you know.
Yeah.
And I went on an expedition with adventure consultants.
Okay.
And it was just so nice. I mean, the whole experience, and we had the most amazing weather on the summit day. And
the weather. I mean, your photography on that climb. I mean, it's fabulous. I'm like, everything looked perfect.
Yes.
It was such a really
the sad thing is that on the summit day you climb in the dark, so you can't really see anything. You know,
typical.
So you don't see the exposure, you don't see this amazing environment. But then when you go down from the mountain, you're like, oh my God, did I climb here this morning? Wow, that's so cool.
Exactly.
But I remember that the last 300 meters, it's a steep glacier.
Yeah.
That was really hard. Like, you take 15 steps, then you have to rest for 1 minute, and then you do it over and over and over again. And I imagine that is how it's going to be on Broad Peak, because I've been researching, and it's steep from base camp to the summits, it's never any easy parts, it's never flat or anything. It's just steep all the way up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How?
But I remember also like sleeping in Camp 2 on Ahmad Ablam.
Yeah.
I mean, you see in the photos, it looks
Epic.
crazy, and it is totally
Totally.
crazy.
Yeah.
The tents, they are not flat at all. They are like 30 degrees
Yeah.
angle.
You're rolling
And you
out of
have-
your tent.
Yeah, you have this big boulder that's blocking you from rolling over the edge in the middle of the night when you're sleeping.
Wow.
And unfortunately, there's also poo everywhere in Camp 2. So I went out in the middle of the night in my inner boots and I had to pee. And then I come back into the tent and my tent mate, he says, "Oh, it smells so funny." And I'm like, "Why? What?" And then I just, put my foot into the poo and throw it inside the tent. So yeah, watch out for that when you go.
Classic. My question is, how technical was this climb for you? Obviously, you're saying you didn't do Island Peak, you didn't do La Bouche, which are usually stepping stones for Amanda Blom, and most people don't really have the courage to step in onto that. And reasonably thinking, how technical was it for you? And have you had any other climbs that required that level of skill?
Yeah, so I did climb a few technical mountains in the Alps during that fall before I go. Like the Matterhorn, and I led that climb myself. And when I got to Ahmad Ablam, there are fixed ropes, so it's not alpine style, And I thought actually it was easier than I expected due to the fixed ropes. If you would have climbed it alpine style, it would be another thing. But I was like, climbing Matterhorn is way harder because then you have to make all the decisions yourself. You have to, lead the climb,
when you're
then
doing. You don't have someone. You've got all your ropes on Ahmad Ablam. You just tie in and go.
Exactly. I mean, there's still climbing. I mean, I climbed everything without holding on and pulling the fixed rope and my Jumar except the Yellow Tower, because when you get to the Yellow Tower, it's like a 25-meter vertical wall, and you can free climb it. But the problem is that there's a line of people standing there waiting to get up this little steep part. So you don't want to delay this line, so you just pull your Jumar and you Jumar up this mount tower. But except for that, I was trying to not hold on to my Jumar, just pushed it for security, and then I free climbed on the side just to get a little bit more of a challenge, because I think it's fun when it's not technical.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I want to climb in the future. I just need to gather more experience, But if I would climb Ahmad Ablam again tomorrow, I would definitely go alpine style, and I would climb with a partner, and we would lead the climb ourselves.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, that's great to hear. Yeah, I saw you simulated Everest in your backyard there during COVID because you couldn't make Nepal because of COVID. You couldn't make Nepal. I think you were planning on an Everest trip.
I'm not yet. I can't afford Everest.
Yeah. Well, Nepal's open again. When are you scheduled to go back Nepal? And what's on your list for climbs? Do you have anything scheduled for that?
Yeah, I do. Yes. I was actually posting an image of the airport in Lukla today on my Instagram because I have massive cravings to go to Nepal right now, because you see the Everest season is going on and everyone is going there. And
pretty exciting.
I want to be there too.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm going this fall actually. And I'm going to start with just warming up and do Loboche just because I'm taking an assistant with me, and he never climbed the big mountain before. So we're going to trek the Everest Base Camp, climb Loboche, and we're going to make 2 vlogs about how you do this. And then I'm going to say goodbye to him and catch up with another climbing partner. And we are planning to try to climb a mountain called Kusum Kanguru.
Say that again?
Kusum Kanguru.
Okay.
So it's in the Khumbu Valley. It's one of the first big mountains with glacier that you see on the right side when you trek to Everest Base Camp from Lukla.
Okay.
And it's 6,000 meters something, very technical. We're going to attempt it in alpine style, and I don't think it's ever been climbed by a woman before. It only has a few ascents ever. It's not one of these popular ones. So that's something that is very exciting to me too, to try something that hasn't been climbed that much, that doesn't have like a freeway track up to the summit. You have to really find your own route to go up there, you know?
Yeah, great. That's good stuff.
So,
Yeah.
well, there you go. I think that there's one of our questions, like, have you climbed an incline peak? So that's we're gonna watch out for that for your.
Well, it has been climbed before, but I don't think any woman has.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, for the woman.
Yeah, but other from that, I haven't climbed any unclimbed peaks yet. I still feel like kind of a rookie to climbing. You know, I only been climbing for 4 years, and even if I climbed a lot during these 4 years, I still feel like, since I didn't grow up in the mountains, this is new territory to me. So I hope there will be unclimbed peaks in the future for me.
Yeah, in the Himalayas, you'll never run out of unclimbed peaks.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's really the beauty of the Himalayas. There's so many unclimbed peaks, and yes.
Yeah, we spoke to a guy by the name of Luke Smithwick. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. Do you know Luke?
No, unfortunately
he's
not.
kind of he's not well known in the big climbing circles, but he's pretty prolific. He's kind of under the radar, but in the last 10 years he's climbed 71 unclimbed peaks in the Himalayas. He's an alpinist. He's doing some amazing stuff up there, and he also skis down a lot of them. So he climbs up and then skis down, and he's got some really cool stuff to talk about.
So cool.
We'll
I just learned skiing, so I'm just still struggling to turn outside the slopes, you know?
Well, I've seen your climb with adventure consultants. Have you climbed with any other big mountain outfitters? And if so, do you have a, preference or favorite?
So I climbed with them 2 times. Okay. First time I went to Aconcagua and then on Amadablam. Mm-hmm. But that's the only guiding company I climbed with, actually. And I climbed with Elbrus Tours on Elbrus. But other from that, I always climb by myself with a climbing partner or a friend that's a mountain guide, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Far out.
And 2018 was the last time I climbed with adventure consultants. And I'm going to Broad Peak and have base camp support with Thirdenbach Adventures from Austria. So that would be a new company. But other from that, I prefer to try to climb by myself. But in the beginning, I needed the experience from going on a real expedition, you know. Mm-hmm. But take Aconcagua, for example. I've been 3 times because it took me 3 tries to get to the summit. And the first time I went on the expedition with adventure consultants. And then the next year, I went back by myself, alone.
Okay.
So it was me in the mountains alone. But the weather was really crazy that year, so no one made the summit when I was there. And I turned around at 6,200 because it was a total whiteout and a snowstorm. And I had way too little time to make another attempt. So I had to go back home. So the third time, I went with an independent expedition. So I asked friends, hey, I'm going back to Aconcagua, you want to join? And we had the most amazing summit day. We had plenty of extra days to really time that weather window, and it was just super nice climb.
Far out. When you went solo on your second trip, did you rent the donkeys and go across the? Did you do that all yourself? Organize your donkey and then?
I had base camp support, which means that I had the donkeys taking my bag to base camp, and I also had food in base camp, which is amazing because I hate eating dry freezed food for more than 1 week. And that's all you eat on the high mountain. You know, when you leave base camp and you go to higher camps, you have to eat dry freezed food. And if that goes on for longer than a week, I'm just fed up with it. So I'm happy to eat proper food whenever there's a possibility. But the problem was that I had this super big tent. That was a rookie mistake.
Okay.
I had a North Face VE25. That's like a huge tent for 3 people. So it took up all the space in my backpack. So I always had to walk 2 times between the camps to go with my loads. That was just so crazy, you know. I go from camp 1 up to camp 2. I dump all the stuff. I go back to camp 1, get the rest, and go up again in the same day.
So you were super acclimatized.
So,
You know, when you see all the expeditions, like they just carry their day pack. Someone else is carrying everything
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
And then they come to Camp 2 and they have someone who is serving you pizza and tea, and you can just sit down in your tent and relax. I had to go down again, go up
You're
one more
like,
time.
can I have a piece
Then
of
I had
pizza?
to fight in the storm
Right.
to put up my tent, this huge tent, all by myself, and it was just flying away. You know, the storms in Aconcagua, they are crazy.
yeah.
It was just flying away. I could barely handle it. And then when you finally battle your tent and it's set, then you have to melt water. You have to melt snow for 2 hours to be able to eat and drink. So it was a lot of hard work,
Yeah,
but it was
sounds like it.
also very rewarding in terms of the
It's very
experience you
sure.
got from it.
You really
I'm not
appreciate.
bringing that huge tent on the high camps on Broad Peak. I
No
have
way.
a smaller one now.
No way.
Yeah. Your picture is kind of frozen there. Are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah. Oh, wow. My picture is frozen. Wait.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. There we go.
I'm
Thank you. And who
Sorry.
needs a studio engineer? We got you. Good job.
we thought we lagged off. Okay. Yeah.
So obviously, photography and blogging has been a big part of what you do. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about your digital kit, your cameras, your computer, your comm, while you're
Yeah.
on the move. How do you put that all together?
Well, I have a brand new laptop because I took out my jet boil and I boiled some pasta in a hotel room 2 weeks ago, and it just boiled all over the place in the room, and my computer was drenched in pasta water,
Oh.
so I had to get a new laptop. And I'm that kind of person who bring my laptop to base camp to be able to edit photos, to be able to
Yeah.
work on remotes and everything. When it comes to camera gear, I found the last couple of years that the lighter and smaller, the better actually.
Mhm.
Because my first time on Aconcagua, I took my DSLR with a big lens. It was 4 kilos in total, and I dragged it up to 6,000 meters. And you're too exhausted to
Sure.
use
It's a
it
big
anyway.
piece of gear.
So I took maybe 15 photos or something, and I was like, never more. So now I have this small digital camera. It's like a Lumix G100, and this just works really well for
Far out. What's
blogging
that camera
blogging
called?
and
What's that
Sorry?
camera? Name that camera again. What is it?
it's a Lumix
Okay, yeah.
G100.
Lumix, yeah.
Yep. Nice.
Okay.
What were you using
Yeah.
when you were on Amada Blanc, may I ask? What camera?
Yeah, so a lot of what was that? That was like a Canon M50. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
also
a lot of gear
small.
there. No? Yeah, okay. Right. Easy. Sweet.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been lighter and lighter for every expedition, actually.
Yeah.
You're really becoming an alpinist.
Yes.
Well, during our Everest summit attempt, we were strongly advised to bring as a backup, the manual operated camera, like with the
Oh,
film
wow.
and well, we had a digital camera with us.
Yeah.
But just in case it freezes up and it's stuck up, then you can have the manual. And actually they said this is really happening. This is really good advice because summit pictures up there in the summit are really important. So you should really be very
are.
very sure.
Have your
So
backup.
yeah, do you still how
you
do
bring
you
a
deal?
backup?
Yeah, do you bring a backup, or do you have such thing as manual operated cameras during your climb?
So I haven't used that yet, but also I've never been higher than 6,962 meters. So maybe those extra 1,000 meters or more
Yeah.
makes the whole difference, I was thinking, I always have my phone as a backup. It always works really well in cold environments. I never had a problem with it. But I have to think about this, of course. I mean, it would
Yeah.
suck to get to the summit of an 8,000 meter mountain and you can't take a picture of it, of course.
But how do you protect your battery from draining? How do you keep it warm?
In pocket. in my
Okay.
pocket.
There's no
Yeah,
like
it's-
special seal
But-
or
And then I sleep with it in my sleeping bag too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Same as
I
your water
always
bottle.
try to have it heated
Yeah.
as much as I can.
Okay. And how do you charge it?
Solar panel. So
You
I
have
just
your own.
plug in like a USB
Yeah. Okay.
wire from the solar planet to the
Mhm.
camera.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it works well if it's sunny. Not so well if it's not sunny. But I
Yes.
also always have a spare battery with me. So
Yeah. A battery bank. Yeah.
yeah.
So photography and filmmaking have been a constant progression throughout your career. Have you any plans for producing a documentary here in the future?
Yeah, actually for my 4,000-meter peak project next year, I'm going to make a documentary about it actually. That's the plan.
Okay.
I do blogging today. I have a YouTube channel, so I make small films about my adventures. But
Yeah, but
this will be
you're
something bigger.
also you've got this incredible YouTube channel. I want to anybody listening out there right now or watching, I want to say go check out her YouTube channel. It's super cool. You got some great stuff on there, and obviously you've got really good skills in filmmaking. So that's why I sort of it's got to be going. That's the natural progression for you, I would presume.
Well, I do get some help actually. I have a few people that I work with because otherwise it wouldn't be possible. It's super hard to film yourself at the same time as you are climbing. It's really difficult actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We've tried that as well. Like even, you know, you got to set up the shot sometime. You got to set the camera
Yeah.
up, do the
Yeah.
climb back down, get the camera.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know?
I
You,
know.
you do all of this like in the harsh weather and you're hungry and you're tired, but you have to do it.
Yeah, I'm trying. But I always feel when I come back from a trip, oh, I should have filmed more. I should have tried
Yes,
harder.
yes,
you know?
yes. But when you're there, it's like, okay, that's enough. It's like I'm tired.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
You've done a lot of traveling over the years. Do you have any places that are particularly enticing, you know, places that really draw you and places that you
Yeah,
really want to go
I
back to?
feel like, I mean, there's so many beautiful and special places in the world, but I really love the mountains in Peru. That's a place I really want to go back to. Patagonia is super beautiful too, and New Zealand, obviously.
Mhm.
But there's also Georgia in Europe, amazing. What else? I mean, I'm excited to go to Pakistan this summer because I've never been.
Yeah,
And
it
that would
sounds
be really
amazing.
cool.
We're talking to Luke. I'll send you a link to some of his stuff, but he shoots a lot of photography as well.
Yeah,
But
that
he
would be
talks
cool.
about that range over there, and
Yeah.
he's got some pictures. It just looks awesome.
Yeah. The whole reason I choose Broad Peak to be
Totally.
my first 8,000-meter mountain is just because it's next to K2, so you have that view when you climb it.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, you're gonna have a great time. So, obviously, climbing is inherently dangerous. Do you have any times that you might call a close call? If so, what
Yeah,
happened?
I do. Yeah, I do. So 2 summers ago, I was climbing the Grand Jurassic Traverse in the Alps. And it's a pretty technical climb. It goes over 6 4,000-meter mountains. And on the second 4,000-meter peak, there is a big rock fall.
Yeah.
And me and my partner, we are simul climbing, which means that one of us goes first, put in protection, and the other one goes last and take out the protection.
Yeah, right. Trying to kind of
And-
going for speed. You're moving fast.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And the second 4,000-meter peak, Dom de Rochefort, it's not particularly hard. It's like alpine grade AB,
Yeah.
and it's maybe like 40 degrees angle where we are climbing.
Mm-hmm.
And my partner just traversed to the side, but he didn't find a place to put in any new protection. And I just took out the last cam. So we had no protection at all. It was just us
Oh.
with a rope between us. And then I look up and I see huge stones falling down. And I think, shit. And that's it, you know. That's all. I don't have time to do anything because there's so many rocks coming
Right.
down so fast that I just can think, shit.
That's
and
it.
then I instinctively maybe did something like this, trying to protect myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A big boulder hits the back of my head. I pass out and I just
Wow.
fall down. And my partner,
and you're not tied in.
luckily,
You're not
sees
tied
it.
in.
We are tied in the rope, me and my partner,
Right.
but the rope is
Just
not
to him.
attached to the mountain. That's the
Okay.
problem, you know.
Yeah.
We don't have any protection into the rope
Right.
at this moment because I just took out the last cam. But my partner, he sees this and he reacts really quickly and he just throws himself at a rock and holds my fall. And I
Wow.
think we have maybe 15 meters of rope between us.
Ah.
So I fall maybe 15 meters, but since it's not vertical, I fall like boom, 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 like that, you know,
Yeah.
just hitting
Ouch.
my
Out of the
body in
cartoons.
different places. And he is there holding on to me, and he screams for help because there's some more people climbing. There's one climbing pair over us, and they are actually the ones pulling down the rocks on us, but they just keep climbing. Maybe they don't hear him, or maybe they are ashamed over what happened. I don't know.
Okay.
But then there's an Italian climbing couple like 20 minutes below us, and they see what happens, so they hurry up, you know,
Mhm.
and they help my partner to build an anchor. And I'm passed out. I don't know anything that's going
Right.
on at this moment. But apparently I woke up and I asked my partner, where am I? What happened? Like 200 times over 45 minutes.
Wow.
And that's when I wake up. Like I'm waking up from a bad dream or something. Everything is blurry. And you're like, what? Why am I
What's
on a
going-
mountain?
Right.
How did I get here? I must have climbed. What mountain is this? You know, all these questions came into my head when I woke up, and something felt off. Something felt like it was wrong, you know, and I just noticed that my body is shaking and there's blood running from my head and there's a helicopter trying to rescue me.
Mhm.
So I was super, super lucky because this is how you die in the mountains.
Yeah.
Rockfall is like a huge danger, especially in the Alps. And I got flown to the hospital and they stitched my head. And I just had a concussion and I was beaten black and blue from the fall, obviously, but nothing was broken and there was no serious injuries at all. So I was so lucky, and I
Yeah.
know it. So after this, I've been really careful with rock falls and people climbing above you in the mountain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be my question. You know, a lot of times when people take big falls and or have really close calls in the mountains, it sort of affects their climbing psyche. You know, they get a bit gun shy or fearful of climbing, and some people actually end their careers on that sort of moment. How did that affect you over time, just after that?
Yeah, so I always been scared of falling. But I think like climbing an exposed ridge, that's not a problem. But climbing a technical vertical wall, it's super scary.
Yeah.
So I'm not that into sport climbing because I'm so scared of falling. I feel like that's just scary, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't know. I like alpine climbing because the climbing is not that technical. It's so many other things taking into the alpine climb that makes it difficult, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I was actually out sport climbing on top rope 1 week after the accident because I was just like, I'm gonna get back on the horse. I'm not gonna let this scare
Got a
me.
girl.
And
All right.
yes, of course, I'm going to be more careful with people climbing above me and with rock falls. But I'm not going to stop climbing. I'm going to do this, but just try to be more safe.
Yes.
And speaking of safety, like the last couple of months, because the world have been shut down, we haven't been able to travel due to Corona and everything. I've taken this time to educate myself. I've done a lot of courses in rescue, about avalanches, avalanche rescue, and I become an assistant climbing instructor, and I've been, just trying to develop as much as possible when it comes to handling situations like this and be able to take better decisions in the mountains.
That's really very
Great.
good.
That's great to
Yeah.
hear.
Congratulations.
Good stuff. Yeah.
And you are a big advocate of women.
We lost you there. Emma.
I'm still here. My
Okay.
videos.
There you go. You're
Okay.
back. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Emma, you're a big advocate of women empowerment. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, I mean, working for equality has always been really important to me, whatever I've been doing in life, you know. And as I told you before, when I started climbing, all the stories I heard, they were just about these super hardcore men. I didn't even know that someone like me, a regular woman, could go into the mountains
Fashion
and be a
photographer.
climber. So this is something I really, really want to inspire others and show if I can do this, so can you, you know? And if you think about how many movies are there about female alpine climbers, it's like none almost, you know?
Hmm.
There's almost no books. There is, I mean, all the news, they are always about men. And I mean, we have to change that. And I want to be part of that change, you know?
All right.
And I'm never going to be a super professional climber. I'm not going to be that, you know, I'm not going to be, I don't know, like Liv Sansos, who was like the world champion in climbing and then do super hardcore stuff in the mountains. She's a big inspiration of mine, by the way. Check her out. But I'm just a rookie, you know. I'm not going to be on that level as a climber. But that's okay too, you know. And that's also a message I want to send, that everyone doesn't have to be professional, world best elite. You can be at any level and enjoy this, you know, and go out into the mountains and climb. So yeah, I'm trying to do something for the community and to inspire more people, especially women, to be able to do this.
Yes.
Good on you. That's great stuff.
It's really,
Yeah,
it's
thank
very
you.
inspiring because, yes, as we know, climbing is a mostly, you know, in general, is a male-dominated sport, and it's hard, you know. And they say it's hard and it's dangerous, and so what you're doing is really an inspiration, and keep doing it. And you know,
Thank you.
yes, and we also support your cause and your advocacy, and we believe in it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So in saying that, has anybody in your circle of friends or families or colleagues in the fashion industry ever followed in your footsteps and got into climbing or any outdoor adventure, you know?
Yeah, I actually have a lot of friends that's like, oh, I want to climb too. Take me climbing. So I always do that. I try to bring people on my adventures, or I just, you know, take them on a easy climb, alpine climb in the Alps, to show them the mountains. And there are a few friends in fashion. I know like 4 or 5 people now that actually started climbing. So it's cool. But my family, they don't understand it at all. They won't climb. No.
So how's that? Tell us a little bit about your family. How's your support? Do you have siblings? Your parents?
So I have 3 siblings, and I have 2 parents. And we're from a small town in Sweden, and they still live there, you know, and they are not really into these outdoorsy things or adventures the same way as I am. So we're very different in that way. And yeah, as I said, I mean, I have their support, but I also feel like they don't really understand, and they are not really liking what I do because they think it's dangerous, of course.
That's parents. That's their job.
Exactly. It's
That's
their
right.
job.
Exactly.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think about all the, you know, dangerous stuff that I've done throughout my life, and I was a bit of a thrill seeker, still am. But we have kids. My son is okay, but my daughter, I'm scared as hell. I'm like, no, she's not going to do that. So I'm going to be one of those parents as well. I'm really protective.
Yeah. I don't have any kids by myself yet. We will see if that will happen or not. At the moment, there are so many mountains to climb, so I don't have time to get. But yeah, I can understand that when you are a parent, you'll be very protective.
Yeah.
Of course.
Now I get my parents.
Yeah.
But I'm sure your parents are proud of what you're doing, you know.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, the first Indian woman, Bachendri Pal, she was the first Indian woman to climb Everest. She's going to guide a 5-month trans-Himalayan expedition for 10 women above 50 years old. Do you have...
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any plans of pursuing such feat, like leading and guiding clients for women in the future?
Oh, Yes, I would love that. Actually, my dream is to become a mountain guide. I
Nice.
just to gather more experience. I mean, when it comes to alpine climbing, I have the
I
level
can see it.
6 to get into the education,
Mhm.
but it's really difficult to get into the education. You have to be really good in trad climbing and skiing and ice climbing and alpine climbing and a lot of other things. There's like a list of 100 routes you have to
Mhm.
do, and that means maybe 20 ski tours and 20 trad climbs,
Mm-hmm.
grade 6 plus or whatever it is, you know. And I'm just not there yet when it comes to the experience within trad climbing and skiing. So that's something I'm working on.
Yeah.
And hopefully I will be able to apply to the education. It starts every second year in Sweden. So maybe in 4 years, that's my goal, to apply
All
to
right.
mountain guide education in 4 years,
All
because
right.
I would love to be a mountain guide and to take people on expeditions. And I actually do that already, but then I
Yes.
hire IFMGA guides to help out with security and everything, you know. But I do the logistics, I do the planning and the production, and I love these things, you know.
Far out.
And I love taking people to the mountains. That's so much fun.
That's
It
cool.
definitely seems like it's a natural progression for you after watching some of your films today. So, yeah, that's where you're headed for sure. Looking back on your career thus far, what's been your hardest expedition and why?
Ooh, hardest one. Let me think. Hmm. It's like after a while you forget how horrible something is, if it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's been hard expeditions for sure, and I would say the solo expedition on Aconcagua was pretty tough.
Okay, yeah.
You know, weather was really bad. I mean, it was so windy and stormy that there was so much snow. I never seen that much snow in base camp before.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost impossible to walk. I remember walking up to Camp 1 to leave some gear, and I couldn't take it out of my backpack because it was too windy. So I had to hide behind a rock. And every now and then the wind kind of slowed down for 2 seconds, and then you like put something out, and then
Yeah.
you have to bury it on the rocks so it wouldn't fly away straight away. It was just really harsh conditions, you know, and yeah, it was tough. But it was also nice to know that you could pull through and do it.
Yeah. After that
And then
very difficult experience, you know that
You
yeah,
can
you can
handle
go
that.
through
Yeah.
more things
I
after that.
Things
climbed
get easier.
yeah, I climbed Chimborazo in Ecuador by myself too, and that was super cold. It was so cold. I was frozen. There's a picture of me standing on the summit, and it's frozen everywhere, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Icicles
That
everywhere.
was so tough.
That's cool.
But yeah, I mean, the expedition in Haiti, climbing the highest mountain in Haiti, was also crazy because no one speaks English and there's no roads, and there's no guides or anything, and I had to hire a taxi to take me as close to the mountain as possible. And then he arranged for me uh, to go on the back of some young kid's moped into the mountains and wait for me while I was climbing this mountain. And the road to get there was so bad that I was
He had to.
just
He
like
had.
going like this. My
Yeah.
ass was so smashed that I cried going back to the
Did I hear
taxi
that right?
lady. That
He had to wait for you.
yes,
He had to wait for you.
when I was climbing,
Did you have any worries that he might not be there when you get back?
he will be gone, of course, and
Oh
then I
my
will be
God.
totally lost in the middle of nowhere, you know.
Oh
And
wow.
Haiti, it can be a dangerous country. I mean, it's not like Western Europe.
Yeah,
It's
that's right.
totally different, you know, and no one speaks your language. And yeah, it was just,
Yeah. So,
had this worried feeling the whole
yeah.
time I was there, actually.
How did you deal with that? You know, you're traveling alone. The stigma, you're a woman.
Yeah.
And nobody speaks English. How do you have any plans on how to sort of like tackle those things, like the dangerous sides of what may happen to you, or
Yeah, I mean, I've been traveling a lot by myself all over the world, and I never really felt unsafe, except once in Egypt when I was sexually assaulted on the streets
Wow.
by a group of men.
Wow.
But other from that, I mean, everywhere I've been in the world, people have been really nice and welcoming. And maybe I'm naive because I always believe that people are generally nice, you know.
Mhm.
And obviously, I wouldn't go to a really dangerous area just for fun, you know.
Sure.
And I also refuse to be limited by being a woman traveling by myself. So I just go out there, try to be brave, and try to just do what I want to do and not think so much about it. But then it's, of course, you're raised by, you have to be cautious all the time as a woman. So it's in the back of your head. But at the same time, I mean, if they would leave me and not waste me while I climbed this mountain, there would be nothing I could do. I had to start walking back, you know,
That's
and
right.
I was going to miss my plane, but somehow I would solve it.
Yes.
I still have a lot of faith in myself to solve situations in somehow, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a reason why I'm not particularly scared. I mean, I traveled all over South America and I didn't speak a word of Spanish, and crossing the border and being out in the wild, it was just, no one spoke the
Sign
language
language.
either, but somehow you just get by, you know, like
Yeah.
body language. And
Sure.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Wow.
I just don't want life to be not as rich because I'm a woman. I
Yep.
want to have full experience, and we're all gonna die one day, and hopefully it's not gonna be anytime soon. But
Mhm.
that's a risk you take, walking out on the streets where
Yeah.
you live too, you know.
Yes.
And I genuinely believe people are nice, and if you treat people respectfully, most situations you can avoid getting into trouble.
Sure.
I think.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree. Yeah. So, hey, you did a lot of climbs in the past few years. Do you have any favorite pieces of gear or something that you could recommend, or something you always like can't leave home without it?
So let me think. I mean, it's the same with the camera gear. I'm starting to lean towards the lighter, the better.
Mhm.
So I love my AirTech crampons because they are lightweight and you can climb both snow and rocks with them. And they are perfect for a climb like the Matterhorn. And I love my Ghost ice axe because it weighs nothing, you know. And what else do I have that's in my climbing gear that I really, really like? So when it comes to clothing, I really love my Futurelight shell layers from North
Mhm.
Face. I think that material is a brand new one.
Okay.
It's very breathable and it's so soft. It's not like Gore-Tex.
It's called
Gore-Tex
chillax.
can be quite stiff, but the Futurelight material is just so soft and it's perfect.
Put it
when
on,
you
and you don't want to take it off.
Yeah, exactly. But then I'm a cold person, so I like my down jackets and base
Oh yeah,
layers.
definitely.
Yeah, and
Keeps you warm.
I
yeah.
wear mine way too often. Everyone's like, "Hey, it's too low. What are you doing?" And yeah, but I'm comfortable. I like to be
yeah,
warm.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
and also when you use layers, you can just take it off if you're too warm and put it on if you're cold. You know,
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive to temperatures. I don't like it when it's warm. Like going to a warm country where it's like
Hot and
35
humid.
degrees.
Yep.
Can't stand it. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, if it's super cold, I can't stand that either. So I'm
Mhm.
really particular in what kind of temperature zones I'm comfortable in, you know?
Well, we're in the summer right now, so you don't want to be in here in the Philippines.
It's pretty warm today.
It's warm.
Pretty warm today. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on how people can go back to outdoors, travel, and exploration amidst all the restrictions being imposed in our current times?
Yeah. I mean, I live in Sweden and we have had quite few restrictions,
Yeah.
at least in the beginning. Now there's more, but you're still always welcome to go out in the nature because it's all about keeping your distance. And what's the best place to do that? Yeah, it's outdoors, of course, you know. and especially out in Indonesia where you have all these wide, big areas. And in Sweden, it has been really trendy right now to go outdoors because you can't travel to your regular Thailand or Spain trip. So you go to the Swedish mountains instead, or the Swedish forest. And I like that people are discovering the nature more and more.
Back at home, yeah.
Yeah, and it was also nice for me this year to explore a lot more of my own country that I haven't seen that much. I mean, I spent the whole winter traveling back and forward in my van to northern Sweden, trying to ski and do some ice climbing and just explore my own country. Because I live in Stockholm and it's the same distance to go to the Alps as it is to go to northern Sweden for me.
Oh, okay. So,
So yeah,
yeah.
I think that the outdoor is just going to be more and more popular for everyone all over the world in the future, you know. I think this year has taught us that you don't have to fly to the other side of the world, you know, to get an adventure. You can easily do that in your backyard. So I think we changed our mindset a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
After.
So, how about any suggestions for anyone struggling with life in our current times? You know, we have a lot of people who, you know, for us, for example, we've been in the Philippines, been locked down for a year. They opened up about a month ago for about 3 weeks, and we've been locked down again now, accordingly, for another month. So, but, you know, also in a lot of places, people are not allowed to leave their homes. They've been in isolation for quite a long time. And when we go to the mountains, we put ourselves, or when we go to sea or doing adventures, a lot of time we isolate ourselves. Any suggestions for anyone struggling with life in our current times?
I would say keep dreaming. Plan your next adventure and just, you know, try to, I mean, climbing a mountain, it's a lot of mental strength too, you know. It's not always so fun. They call it type 2 fun. It's a lot of pain and suffer. And I think lockdown is quite similar. It's the same thing, same process you go through, you know. Try to just keep dreaming about your next adventure and start planning it. Like, do the research, see what kind of training you can do from home, watch tutorials to learn techniques and skills you need to be able to go on this adventure, and just try to keep your hope up, you know. And it's okay to have a bad day, but I mean, it's the same if you want to climb an 8,000-meter mountain. That's not something you do tomorrow. You have to plan it as you did for 3 years to go to Everest, and it takes time, you know.
Yes.
And I think we just have to accept the world as it is right now and think about that it's temporary, and we can see the light in the tunnel now because the vaccine is coming, and it's going to be a couple of more months maybe, but then hopefully we're going to be able to be free again, and then we can go and do all these amazing adventures. So it's about not losing hope and spirit, and just, you know, keep dreaming.
Okay. Great advice.
Yeah, thank you. Any film, books, documentary you want to share with our audience?
Anything? Are you writing a book? Anything coming up? What's happening?
I just read Elizabeth Revel's book To Live from Nanga Parbat. It was huge because she and this Polish climber Tomek were climbing Nanga Parbat in winter a few years ago, like 2017, I think. And they went into trouble. And this was the first time that we could follow a rescue on a big mountain, like real time.
Right.
And you had this Polish expedition on K2 that sent help. So they sent some of the strongest climbers to Nanga Parbat to help the climbers there. And there was just...
I remember that. I remember she lost her partner, didn't she?
Female.
She lost her partner on that climb, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did. Yeah, there was nothing they could do for him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That was a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I think it was.
27.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So that one was really, really, really good. I can really recommend that.
Okay.
And then I would also recommend, let's see, the K2 ski descent that Andrzej Bagiel from Poland did. 2 years ago. That was also like amazing. What an accomplishment to ski
right.
down K2.
Oh.
And the fun thing is that he climbed it without oxygen. And he was so strong, and he just walked past people with oxygen on the way up with his skis on their back. And everyone else that was climbing, they were like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Yeah, who's this guy? Little animal.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry?
They're all going, who's this guy? Who's this friggin' animal? Savage.
Yeah. That was crazy to see. So yeah, that one I can recommend too.
Okay.
And,
But do you have any personally? Are you writing any books or doing any films?
I actually wrote a book that came out last year.
Oh.
Wow. Okay, that's what we want to hear.
Unfortunately, it's in Swedish, so there's no English translation or anything. So it would be difficult for people to read outside Sweden.
Well, we have some
but I
friends
did
here
like-
even in our little village. I can pass it on. We have some friends that are from Sweden here, so let us know.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
we'll
wow.
talk. Yeah.
And
I'll
we
send you a
also
copy.
want send us a link, or how will
People find
people
it.
find that
Yeah,
book
for
even
sure.
in your
We'll
own
put it in the
language?
resource section.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to my brand new website that I actually released a few days ago, and there's a link where you can get
What's
the
the name of the new website? I think I followed it through the last one you blogged on, which was the L.
Yeah.
Right? And it brought me there, but I couldn't. What's the name of it?
So the website is just emmasvenssonphoto.com.
Okay.
The same as
Okay.
my Instagram name.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So, what is your message for women who wants to follow your footsteps, who wants to go out there and conquer not the trails, the mountains, or nature, but their insecurities, their self-doubts, and self-worth?
So I think what they should do is to find someone who can bring them into the mountains, who can mentor them a little bit, who can encourage them, or like team up with each other, you know. Maybe they also have a friend who's curious about this world, and they can feel stronger together. Because I think sharing experiences and knowledges and just taking people in, helping them because that's how you met most of the time in the outer community. Like, if you want to take a step into it, there's so many like Facebook groups and everything where you can ask questions, and no questions are stupid, and everyone is happy to help you, and everyone is super friendly. So if you dare to take that step, you will be greeted with warmth, and you should know that. And also, like, team up with someone if you feel insecure. Do it together with someone. You can push each other, and you can develop together, and you can learn from each other. And there is just so much joy and excitement, and it's so rewarding to do this. So I really hope that fear doesn't hold you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
That's-
have to
that's
do
where-
it one step at a time.
All right.
Exactly.
Great
You don't
advice.
have to do Everest
Mm.
directly. You can start with your local hill, you know,
Yeah.
and take it from there. Yeah.
So, do you have any dreams about doing projects like the Seven Summits, or even possibly? I know you don't like the cold, but there's some pretty cool North Pole expeditions or South Pole expeditions. Anything like that on the tick
Actually,
list?
No. I mean, when you don't know anything about climbing, you still know about the Seven Summits, and that sounds super cool. But when you start to learn about climbing, you also discover that the Seven Summits is more like a touristy thing that rich people do,
Right.
because it costs a lot of money. And often when you climb these mountains, it's the expeditions that take you to the summit. And I want to be a climber, not a tourist. That's my goal, you know.
Sure.
So that's why I'm into other challenges.
Yeah,
except
I think that's great to
outside the
hear.
Mainstream ones.
Yeah.
I think that's great
I
to
mean,
hear. When I
the
look at
most-
climbing myself, like over the years, those sort of climbs weren't really for me, and that was because, one, I like to be on mountains where there's no crowds, and and there's a lot of climbs out there that haven't been done, or as challenging or more challenging, and and to pay the kind of money you pay to get on a lot of these mountains is just not really feasible. But yeah, that's sort of my philosophy as well.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool challenge. and
Sure.
there's attraction to it, so people do it, but it's not for me.
Yeah, you're sort of going out there and you want to do the stuff on your own, and most of those are big guided trips, and it doesn't make sense for some
Yeah.
people. I get it. Yep.
Exactly.
Do you have any plans of going out in the sea? I don't know.
Any sailing dreams?
Sailing? I don't know if you know Todd's history, but he has sailed around the world without an engine.
Oh wow,
So,
that's super
yeah.
cool.
and
I really admire people who do that because it seems really hardcore, like
oh yes, it
crossing the
is.
Atlantic Ocean by yourself and stuff like that. But I get really nauseous when I'm on a boat, so I couldn't do it. I'm too seasick. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You know, we want to talk about hardcore. I got to bring this guy up. Have you heard of Erdin Erk from? Well, he's originally from Turkey, but
then Rouge.
okay, I said it.
No, unfortunately not.
Anyway, so he is doing the 6 highest summits in the world, but by human power. So he.
Oh yeah, I read about him. Yes, yes.
It's a friggin' animal. He was on our show a couple weeks ago, and he and I really get along. One, because, you know, I did a lot of sailing and working out the logistics and talking about stuff, and so I sort of get where he's at. But he's going to take off on Earth Day, so I'll give him a little props while we're talking about him right now. He's going to leave on Earth Day. He's going to paddle across the Pacific Ocean from San Francisco to Hong Kong, and he'll arrive in March. So it's about a 10, 11 month row across the ocean. He arrives in Hong Kong, and he'll get on his bicycle and he'll pedal to the north side of Everest, pedal, bike boot, walk, however, and then summit Everest, and on he'll head towards overland to the mountain in Russia that you climbed, Elbrus.
Yeah.
Right. So on and so forth.
Yeah,
But this is another.
Oh, cool.
He's already got 6 of the summits done on his first 5-year circumnavigation. He's my age, 52, I think, and he's going to go out and try and finish this project. It's a 10-year project, but it's pretty insane what people are still doing out there today.
Respect to him. Like
Totally.
that's-
It's
I mean, we had a Swede biking from Sweden to Everest.
so
in
this
96.
is his story. It was him. What's his name? He died.
Yeah, he died. Göran Kropp.
So yeah, he died with Aridin, the guy I'm talking about, was his belay partner.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you talk about giving you chills, right? Like, so
Yeah.
he inspired
Yeah.
him. They're climbing together in I think it was Leavenworth, Washington, and he fell to his death. And Aridin said, "I'm picking up the torch," and he started this
Yeah.
dream. Like
Life's too short. That moment that happens, that life's too short. I have to do it.
he
Just do it.
flew to Sweden, went to the funeral. You know, they were really good friends, and then he changed his life and went on this incredible journey. Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty
small
amazing.
world.
All respect to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing human beings out there. So,
Yeah. I'm going to follow.
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll send you some links as well. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Emma, I think we're running out of time. I think we're gonna wrap it
Yeah.
up.
It's been really nice to talk with you
Yes.
guys.
Yeah, really enjoyable. Great getting to know you. What an incredible soul you are, and such a brave
Oh.
person. And
Yes.
we are looking forward to watching where you're going in the future. So we'll be following and staying in touch.
Yeah, you're a beautiful person. You're very strong, and we are really, really supporting what you're doing. And thank you for gracing our show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank
okay.
you.
Take care. Stay in touch. Good luck with your next expedition. We'll be watching.
Thank